Welcome back, everybody, to another Flipping Tables. My name is Sean.
And I'm Tico.
And today we have another card game for you. It is a Kickstarter prototype. It's on Kickstarter now, so be sure to click the link down below to check it out. It is a game called Aurora, in which you are developing solar systems and intelligent life.
Star systems and intelligent life is not our forte.
Well, intelligence may not be your forte.
No, not really.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just the part where you're banging tools together. That I'm okay
You're
with.
okay with the banging tool, yeah.
Yeah.
So the cards. Well, let's have a look at the cards. Actually, it'll be easier to show you what the game is all about. So it's very simple. It is literally just a card game. You have the star system cards or the stellar system cards, and you have objectives. And each player is going to take 3 objectives randomly, and there are 3 different victory conditions in the game. You can either choose your 3 victory point, or sorry, your 3 objectives and fulfill those,
and you win.
And you win the game. Or you can, as you play cards, you're going to gather resources. This is carbon, we have water and oxygen, and so if you gather DNA. And yeah, that's right, the life cards have DNA. If you gather 14 of each of the carbon, oxygen, water, and DNA, then you win the game as well. Or if you are the first one to develop intelligence on your star system. The cards are wonderful. The artwork on these cards are phenomenal. They're like photographs.
It reminds me of Planet Earth type of visuals.
It really is very Planet Earth type visuals. And the object of this game is to start the system, start the game. You deal out 6 cards each,
right?
And you're going to play whatever cards you can. And if you have a star, do we have a star around here? I think I have a star right here.
Right there.
So you can start the system with a star system.
A stellar card.
Right. This is the stellar card.
A stellar type star system card thing.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think
that is the official term for it right there.
I think I read that exactly in the rule book that many times.
So you're going to start all your stellar systems with a stellar card, and then from there you branch off and build planets, moons, and then viruses, life, whatever, right? And so the way to read a card, it tells you what type of card it is here, and then it says down here what it supports. So these are the types of planets it supports. So basically, if I just move these cards out of the way, you are trying to be the first to develop an entire system of cards using these cards. So if I play the class B star, it supports those 3 types of cards. So the next card it would support is this rocky planet.
So you can see it matches up your bottom.
That's right.
Your bottom there and your top on the planetary type card.
So we can see the planetary requires these 3 types of star systems. 4, sorry, I can count. And this is one of them. So this supports, it requires a B planet, or a class B star. I feel like I can't talk today. This is a class B star. So I can play this card. Now, the planet supports all of these symbols, and every card has a symbol on the left which represents one of these. So the next one in the list, for example, would be a comet. So I can play a comet on the planet because the planet supports the comet type, which is right here.
And it tells you in the red on the other card which ones it can be attached to.
Which it can be attached to. And you continue playing these cards off of each other until you get all the way down through. So now we're starting to build life, different life, photosynthesis.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Eukaryote, whatever, a herbivore.
You said that wrong, but I can't do any better. So.
And because we have our herbivore for life, it supports language. Language is sentience. Sentience allows us to develop tools. Tools allows us to develop fire.
Feels like you're going to break into the Big Bang Theory theme song any minute now.
I feel like I might. And finally, to win the game, you develop intelligence. So it may look like that. You may have all of these sort of just piled on top of each other. But as you're going through, you're also collecting these resources.
So you're keeping track of the DNA, oxygen, carbon, and water that you have placed on the table in this particular star system, stellar system. And you can have multiples going at the same time. Some of the victory conditions actually require you to have evolved life in 2 different stellar systems.
Yeah.
So as part of your objectives. So you can have multiples of these going. They're all counting towards your totals. It is kind of hard to keep track because you got a lot of cards on top of a lot of cards, beside a lot of cards.
And you're trying to keep track of, do I have 12 or do I have 14 of each, counting them all up. The Supernova edition of Aurora, I'm told, is going to have counters in it for tracking your
resources.
Your resource counts. But again, so if you're the first one to develop intelligence in a system, you win.
Right.
Automatically, you win.
It's end game condition.
That's right. Or if you manage to, for example, evolve life cards within 2 different stellar systems, that is that objective done. If you also evolve a virus from a large or small moon, that objective is done. And if you acquire 20 carbon, then that objective is done. And once you complete all 3 of those objectives that you may have, you also win the game.
You'd flip those over and say, I've done that, I've won. Or if you hit your target, you've won the game. Keeping track of obviously finding intelligence is the easiest one to keep track of. There are very few intelligence cards in this game, the 108 card deck. So we didn't find that we were finding much intelligence.
We didn't find much intelligence on our planets, no.
I felt that we were getting closer along it, but I did find that was a little bit of luck of the draw, that if you happen to, because we were both sitting on waiting on intelligence. For quite a while. So it's whichever one of us was going to draw one of those cards
I had
first.
13 of each of the... I had needed 1 more of each, but I had nowhere to play them.
Right.
Because I had developed it all the way out, and I'm only waiting on intelligence, which doesn't give you resource because it's a winning condition.
Yeah, waiting for intelligence was pretty much what was happening. We're both...
Isn't that just life, though? Waiting for intelligence?
It hasn't happened yet. But I think that's the problem, is we were both sitting there, so it was the luck of the draw. It came down to luck of the draw. We were both at this development stage, and we were both waiting to draw that card, and you happened to get lucky and draw that one
So
first.
each round you can either continue to develop a system you started or start a brand new system. You cannot develop 2 systems at the same time. So you can either develop on one that's already there or start a new one, and then next turn you can develop that one as well. So you can have multiple systems going. Right. And in fact, star systems can have multiple planets. So here it shows infinite. Some of them have numbers on them. In this case, this can have multiple planets. So on the one star, you could have, say, 3, 4 planets, each being developed at the same time in the same star system. In fact, some of the objectives actually say to develop 3 specific planet types in the same stellar system. Right. And that is an objective you may want to try to do. And in fact, in that case, all you need for that objective is a class and 3 planets. That objective is done. You don't have to develop life on them.
Nope.
You just have to get 3 planets on one stellar card.
And that gets one of your objectives.
That's one of your objectives. Exactly.
Yeah, so depending on which direction you're going and how you're trying to build that, it's sort of a race between you and your opponents to develop either one of those 3 conditions first. It's an interesting way to do that because it is hard to keep track of all 3 at once. Like I lost count so many times where I'm like, hang on, we got to stop so I can
need to count them all.
Count my resources, because there's other cards. There are event cards in the game. I can't remember where we put them down, but there's here we go. We've got there's event cards that you can play in between as well, and these will double certain types of cards, for example.
So the Goldilocks zone, this card replaces 1 stellar card. So you can play an event card to replace other cards. You can play the red event cards to mess up your opponent. Right? Add a plague to their planet, do a supernova.
Here. This is one of those ones. Double the resource count of any stellar card. So it's more math. You're doing more math. It's like, I've counted them all up, but now I've got to remember which ones I've doubled and which ones I haven't. It's a lot of cards all in one place. And I found myself getting a little confused. I think I may have won at some point in the game and not realized it.
That's why you definitely need a counter for your resources. As you play a card, you count your resources. If someone plays against some of your resources, you remove them. That would be a lot nicer to have, as you have a little counter per player. It's a 2 to 4 player card game. We found, to be clear, this is a Kickstarter prototype, so they're still working on the rules. I've been talking to the creator, Chris Rosetti, and he said they're adding rules in specifically for 2-player games where we get into loops where we can't play. The basic gameplay is you play cards until you play no more. The next phase is to play an event card. Then you keep up to 3 cards in your hand and pass the rest to your opponent. And in a 3 or 4 player game, it's going around in a circle, right? But in 2 players, I keep up to 3 cards, right? That could be 0 cards. I say I don't want any of them, so I'm going to pass them all to Tico,
who then has to hold those cards in my hand, and I'm doing the same thing. So we're now
at a point because if
we're trading the cards back and forth, the same cards that neither of us can use.
If you have less than 8 cards in your hand, you can draw more cards. But if we're passing the same cards continuously back and forth, we found we were in a loop where neither of us could play anything.
Right.
So they are adding rules in there where instead of passing to the players, we decide, okay, I'm going to keep 3 cards, discard everything else, and draw 5 new or 6 new ones.
Right.
Or I guess in this case 5 new ones because you have 8 cards total.
Up to a max hand of 8.
Right. So some little tweaks are being put in because we did come across that in our 2-player game. Where we were basically in a loop where we couldn't go any further.
Here's the crap I didn't want. Oh, thanks for the crap that you didn't want, which is the same crap I didn't want last time.
Exactly.
And you're back and forth, and you're not making your way through that deck.
That's right.
And I found that when we did add that in, where we sort of discarding and drawing
we finally got through the deck and found what we needed exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's a great balancing, deciding what cards you're going to play. What if you're going for resources, then maybe you only want to play cards for specific resources based on your objectives. Maybe your objectives, all you care about is playing planets. I think the objectives add a really great dynamic to this because you're not just going for the sentient life or the intelligence. You're looking for specific things and being strategic in what cards you play and in what order.
And watching where your opponent is going as well to sort of, again, you can block by giving them crappy cards when you're doing your passing. You have your red event cards that you can use to sort of block those things. So paying attention to what everybody's doing as well as trying to get your stuff out there.
Yeah, and again, it's beautiful. The cards are absolutely wonderful. I'm just going to spread a bunch out here. You can see the artwork on these cards are phenomenal. I love these cards. The look of them. Once you understand how to read the card, it's very, very simple to play cards. This is what it supports. This is what it requires, and these symbols match the symbols on the cards themselves. It's really cool. It's a really fun game. I really enjoyed it. It's on Kickstarter now. Go check it out. Again, it is Aurora. It's by Chris Rosetti, and it's on Kickstarter. The link is down below, so check that out. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Flipping Tables. From nips to tips, it's Flipping Tables. From the tips of the nips, it's Flipping Tables.
I still think it's a good opener.